morning, church.
Good morning.
Today we are continuing our study of the book of Leviticus and specifically focusing on the Day of Atonement. And so as we jump into this, I'd like you to just think right there where you're sitting in your mind. Try and think of as many things that can make you or us physically dirty. So we have sweat, dirt. Obviously, dirt makes us dirty. If you rub your oily fingers through your hair can become greasy. Using the restroom, especially public restrooms, we may think we're clean, but we're actually dirty, worse off. Wearing shoes too long, not allowing our feet to breathe. If you've ever smelled your shoe, it probably stinks. Eating, we probably don't typically think of this as dirty, but the inside of our mouths are dirty. That's why we have to floss, brush, use mouthwash to get rid of also the bad breath. And then shaking people's hands. We were doing that all this morning, but we're all sharing germs together. Especially if you've ever walked into church or somewhere where out of the kindness of your heart, you go to shake someone's hand and then they cough. They might do you the grace of wiping it off and then shaking your hand, but you're left in that awkward position. What do? I have to make a quick decision here, but then you go to the bathroom, scrub your hand, but then it only kills 99.9% of germs, so you're still left with uncleanness. So the point of all of that, though, is to show that we're dirty people. Even if we took a shower this morning, which most of us did, we tend to get dirty, and we're just going to do it over again. I took a shower this morning, but all day today I'm going to get dirty. And then tomorrow morning I'm going to take a shower. And then tomorrow I'm going to get dirty. And then the next day I'm going to repeat over and over and over again, day after day. So that begs the question, if we're just going to continue getting dirty, why do we even bother trying to get clean? Yeah, it could get a lot worse. We'd stink. People don't want to be around us. There's a lot of reasons. I think what we see here is that God gave each one of us a specific desire, a longing to want to be clean. And we have that for ourselves. We expect that of other people. I don't really want to sit next to someone in class who didn't brush their teeth in the morning. If they're trying to talk to me, whenever we go on dates with our spouses or significant others, we get nice, dress up. Caitlin puts lipstick on. We prepare ourselves well. So expectations like that aren't necessarily bad, but I think God gave us that desire to want to be clean. And physical cleanliness isn't necessarily reflective of our relationship with the Lord, but oftentimes in Scripture, like in our passage today, it does present a picture of our spiritual cleanliness, where we're standing spiritually with the Lord. And so with that said, let's just go ahead and read. I'm going to read all of chapter 16, and then we'll dive into the passage. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they drew near before the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron your brother not to come at any time into the holy place inside the veil, before the mercy seat that is on the ark, so that he may not die. For I will appear in the cloud over the mercy seat. But in this way Aaron shall come into the holy place, with a bull from the herd for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and shall have the linen undergarment on his body. And he shall tie the linen sash around his waist, and wear the linen turban. These are the holy garments. He shall bathe his body in water, and then put them on. He shall take from the congregation of the people of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Aaron shall offer the bull as a sin offering for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and for his house. Then he shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall cast lots over the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord, and the other for Azazel. And Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord, and use it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, that it may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. Aaron shall present the bull as a sin offering for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and for his house. He shall kill the bull as a sin offering for himself, and he shall take a censer full of coals of fire, from the altar before the Lord, and 2 handfuls of sweet incense, beaten small, and he shall bring it inside the veil, and put the incense on the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is over the testimony, so that he does not die. And he shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the front of the mercy seat, on the east side, and in front of the mercy seat. He shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. Then he shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people, and bring its blood inside the veil, and do with its blood as he did with the blood of the bull, sprinkling it over the mercy seat, and in front of the mercy seat. Thus he shall make atonement for the holy place, because of the uncleanness of the people of Israel, and because of their transgressions, all their sins. And so he shall do for the tent of meeting, which dwells with them in the midst of their uncleanness. No one may be in the tent of meeting from the time he enters to make atonement in the holy place, until he comes out and has made atonement for himself, and for his house, and for all the assembly of Israel. Then he shall go out to the altar that is before the Lord, and make atonement for it, and shall take some of the blood of the bull, and some of the blood of the goat, and put it on the horns of the altar all around. And he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times, and cleanse it, and consecrate it from the uncleanness of the people of Israel. And when he has made an end of atoning for the holy place, and the tent of meeting, and the altar, he shall present the live goat. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat, and confess over it all the iniquities of the people of Israel, and all their transgressions, all their sins. And he shall put them on the head of the goat, and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is in readiness. The goat shall bear all their iniquities on itself to a remote area, and he shall let the goat go free in the wilderness. Then Aaron shall come into the tent of meeting, and shall take off the linen garments that he put on when he went into the holy place, and shall leave them there. And he shall bathe his body in water in a holy place, and put on his garments, and come out and offer his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, and make atonement for himself and for the people. And the fat of the sin offering he shall burn on the altar. And he who lets the goat go to Azazel shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water. And afterward he may come into the camp. And the bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, shall be carried outside the camp. Their skin and their flesh and their dung shall be burned up with fire, and he who burns them shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterward he may come into the camp. Just one more paragraph, we're almost done. And it shall be a statute to you forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict yourselves, and shall do no work, either the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For on this day shall atonement be made for you, to cleanse you. You shall be clean before the Lord from all your sins. It is a Sabbath of solemn rest to you, and you shall afflict yourselves. It is a statute forever. And the priest who is anointed and consecrated as priest in his father's place shall make atonement, wearing the holy linen garments. He shall make atonement for the sanctuary, the holy sanctuary, and he shall make atonement for the tent of meeting and for the altar. He shall make atonement for the priests and for all the people of the assembly. And this shall be a statute forever for you, that atonement may be made for the people of Israel once in the year because of all their sins. And Aaron did as the Lord commanded. Now, if you think that was rough, throughout the Old Testament, throughout Israel's history, the leaders would gather the entire nation together and read to them a lot more than I just read to you. They would read everything in the law. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and they would just stand there and listen. That was just a chapter. And that took about 5 minutes or so. But anyway, going on, in this chapter, in this passage, we get into cleanness, uncleanness. And I have to admit a little bit that this week I was reading over this passage, 16 and 17, and I felt a little overwhelmed. I don't know if you guys have been feeling this way. We've been in Exodus and Leviticus since August, and it just seems like over and over again, God's reminding them, telling them, you have to come to me this way, you have to do this, sacrifices, blood, splattering it everywhere, offerings, proper dress, altars, veils, everything else that goes with it. Can we get into, New Testament type stuff. That's kind of what we tend to crave for. But I was trying to think, how were these people feeling? That was their whole lives. We've just been in it since August. And we took a break for December to look at Jesus in Luke. But they were born into it. They lived their entire lives and died into this. And for 1,500 years of Israel history, it was sacrificed all the time. Day after day after day, week after week after week, month after month after month, year after year after year, so on and so forth. Their entire lives were built on passages like this. And so I was like, well, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and it's only been 7 months. How did they feel in their lives? We get to look back, and thankfully Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice. We don't have to do some of these rituals over and over again like they had to do. They were pointing to Jesus. Now we're looking back at Jesus. But it was 1,500 years that they went through this process. And it's easy to read passages like this and to potentially view God as uncompassionate or unsympathetic. But I would like to challenge that idea in 2 ways. First, if you go back to Genesis, when God made Adam and Eve, he just made the earth. Everything's perfect. Everything's beautiful, wonderful. God gave Adam and Eve the freedom. They could eat from any tree, any fruit, vegetable, all over the world. It wasn't just the garden. It was everywhere in the entire world. God just said, this one tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, don't eat of it. It's poisonous. It's bad for you. You will die if you eat it. And so it changes the tone, because oftentimes we put our tone into the passage, like, you can only come into my presence this way. If you come any other way, you're going to die. And it can make God sound vengeful. But if you look at it in the way that God came to Adam and Eve, it presents God as a protecting God. He's protecting his people from something that will hurt them. Think about outer space. As a kid, I always wanted to be an astronaut. Then I found out you have to know math, and I'm not very good at math, so that didn't work out. But that's why I'm here. Anyway, but I always wanted to be an astronaut. But astronauts have to do everything according to the book. There's no room for error. Because if they do, behind that inch-thick metal is nothing. For like billions of miles, just nothing. And they will just keep going, and no one will ever find them. If something wrong happens in space, you're done. If Neil Armstrong decided, as he was standing on the moon looking back at Earth, it's not really fair that I have to wear a helmet. I'm just going to take it off. Well, he would have lost his life that day on the moon. I looked up a few different statistics. A spacesuit, the normal NASA spacesuit, takes a couple months to make and to test. But they've never had one fail. Now, I saw that on a CNN video, so I hope that's true. But it said that they've never had a single spacesuit fail in the past. So they've done their testing well. Astronauts need help putting it on. They can't just put it on themselves. I think the normal suit itself weighs about 45 pounds, but then you add the big case on the back that keeps them alive, that regulates the temperature, because at any given moment in space, it could be over 200 degrees, or it could be minus 200 degrees. So depending on where you're at, you have to regulate your temperature. It gives you oxygen. So it comes to the total of about 300 pounds that they're wearing. On Earth, that's a lot. In space, it's basically weightless. So, but it can cost nearly $12 million just for the spacesuit. But they've never had one fail, so that was a neat observation. But the point is that there's no margin for error when it comes to the clothing for an astronaut. And they had to wear specific clothing, just like Aaron and the priests. God told them, you have to wear specific clothing in order to come to me. You have to come this way, you have to go by the book. Astronauts have to do the exact same thing if they want to survive. It's not, space isn't mean. It's just, that's the reality. They're coming into an awesome experience. I've never heard an astronaut complain. Obviously, we want things in life to be easier. I don't think anyone would question that. We don't necessarily believe that the gift of tongues is still for today, but what missionary hasn't prayed that God would just give them the language that they're trying to learn? I think we all tend to pray stuff like that. So we want things in life to be easier. But whenever you look at inspirational quotes from astronauts in space, they're just left in amazement. They're left in awe. And so I want to try and pull that into this passage. When Aaron, the high priest, and any subsequent high priest that came after him, went behind the veil into the holy place, think about what they must have been feeling. Like Neil Armstrong standing on the moon, looking back at Earth. You are somewhere that no one else has ever gone before. Try and think about the awe and the amazement. And yes, there's things that they have to do. There's things that they have to wear. But it's for their protection. Nadab and Abihu, as we learned a couple weeks ago, decided to take off their helmet. They decided to do their own thing, to go their own way, and they lost their lives. Not because God is mean. They chose to not obey really the laws of physics. They chose to not obey God. They chose to go their own way, and so they lost their lives. So Aaron, in Leviticus chapter 16, there's about 10 things that he's doing here, and for most of them, he has to be alone while he does this. He took a bath and got dressed. He killed the bull for himself. We have to remember that Aaron's just like a normal person. God chose him from among the Israelites, but he's still like an average person, just like you and I. So he needs a sacrifice for himself. He can't save himself. He burned incense before the Lord, made it smell nice in there. Then he took the blood from the sin offering and sprinkled it on a bunch of different objects to anoint everywhere that he was. He killed the goat for the people. That was a sin offering for all of the people. He sprinkled the blood, took it in a bowl, and he just kind of flicked it on things to cover it. This goes back to, this is always picturing the blood of Jesus covering us. So he's covering the tabernacle, all the objects. He takes the living goat, because remember there were 2 goats, and I spent about an hour of my life making these goats. These are supposed to be goats. The heads didn't really turn out well, but these are what we're going to call the goats of this passage. So one of them died in this passage. So lost its life. That was the price that this goat paid for us. So that's what we have to remember. The other goat, Aaron took this goat, grabbed it by the head, as if he's transferring the sins of the people, and he starts confessing the sins. So it'd be kind of like this. You grab the head of the goat, right in front of you. He puts his head towards its head. God, we, as your people, have struggled with unforgiveness. We have not considered the poor. We have bitterness. We have fornicated. We have committed adultery. And we have gone after other gods. We have worked on the Sabbath when we should have rested. God, we have not trusted you. We do not honor our neighbors. And ultimately, God, we have not honored you as we should. We have addictions and perversions. We have lying tongues, and we commit gluttony whenever the opportunity arises. God, and I can't even speak of all the sins that we wish we could do just because of how sinful we are. And so Aaron would confess all of the sins of the people. There's a lot more than that. I just named a few, and it was this picture that it's transferring the sins to the goat. One goat died as a picture that he took our place, and the other goat, the sins transferred to that goat. And then that goat was sent away. And you never see that goat again. They didn't chase after the goat. They didn't try and go find the goat. They sent it away. And that was a picture of what we read in our call to worship, what we listened to in the song. As far as the east is from the west, all of this is foreshadowing what's to come for them. We're looking back at it, obviously, but Jesus did what two goats had to do. Jesus took our place, he died for us, and he took our sins far away from us. We'll never see those again. And so all of this was a picture of what's going to happen. They were looking forward to Jesus. He removes the clothes, takes another bath. There's a lot of cleanliness going on. He offers 2 burnt offerings, both rams. And then the animal carcasses of the sin offerings are taken outside the camp and burned. So the rest of them are dealt with there. This is at the end of chapter 16. It says in verse 29, "And it shall be a statute to you forever that in the 7th month and on the 10th day." So their calendar was a little bit different than ours, so it was about September. But if that gives you kind of a visual in terms of the time of year. There is a word in here. It's Azazel. It says in verse 10, "But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it." There is a level of ambiguity here. Scholars debate exactly the fullness of the meaning here. Azazel is not an English word, and we don't use it in normal conversations. But this is a Hebrew word. But basically, all we need to know, and what we know from this passage, is that one goat died, taking in our place, so it has to be death for sin. And then another goat went away. Like how I threw it. It went away, and we were never going to see it again. They were never going to see that sin again. And so God gave specific laws to the priest regarding the sacrifices. And so getting back to cleanness, uncleanness, if you've ever gardened or farmed all day long, what happens? You get dirty, you might get some dirt on your arms, hands, legs. So you go take a shower. And what happens when the water's washing all over you? All the dirt is falling off of you and going down the drain. Do you know what you never see again in your entire life? You will never see that dirt again. It goes away. Now you'll get dirty again. That's just who we are. We have a habit of getting dirty for some reason, but you'll never see that dirt again. It goes down the drain. And so this is bringing some application to us, like when we pray, because we're in a different position than they were. They had to do these sacrifices looking forward to Jesus. We, by the grace of God, look back to Jesus. We don't have to bring sacrifices every Sunday, or there's not a specific day in which the overall sacrifice is for all of our sins. Jesus paid that price. So when we pray and we bring to God our sins, like repentance is a good thing. Confession is a good thing. God, I sinned. I messed up. I'm sorry. We should bring those things to God. We should be honest with Him. But how often do we pray asking God forgiveness? He forgives us, but we don't really feel that way. And so then, maybe a couple hours later, you pray the same thing. God, I just want to make sure it worked. You forgave me. And we wouldn't say it like that. But, oh God, I messed up here. Will you forgive me? And then 30 minutes later, I know, God, I messed up 30 minutes ago. Well, God forgave you for that. If you confessed it to Him, brought it before Him, asked for His forgiveness, He forgave you. But I bring this up because we're very distrusting. We have trust issues, many of us. And a lot of times it can come in the way of our feelings. I don't really feel forgiven right now. Yes, but what does God's Word say? God's Word says, as Chad read in Paul's worship, that He casts our sins as far as the east is from the west. We'll never see those again. And so we always have to be reminded of what is God's words say. While sacrifices were going on every day in the tabernacle and later on in the temple, there was a specific day. This was the day that the priests and the people all looked forward to. This was the Day of Atonement. So just in case someone didn't bring a sacrifice for a sin that they committed, or you just didn't know that you committed sins, or just in case any sin was missed, this day covered everything. The priests would go into the tabernacle and offer sacrifice, and they would cover the whole nation. The problem, though, that we have to remember from this passage is that Aaron had to do it the next year. And he had to do it the next year. And he had to do it the year after that, and the year after that. So this was a continual thing. So it reminded them, this isn't enough. It might be enough for right now, kind of. It was just a partial covering. But we're going to have to do it again, because we're going to get dirty again. Whereas we're on the flip side. We're on this side of where they are, Yes, we're going to be, like what I said earlier, we're going to be physically dirty. And we're even going to be spiritually dirty at times. We're going to sin, and there's going to be broken fellowship at times between God and us. But sin is never going to separate us relationally from God. As believers in Christ, sin is never going to completely separate us from God. There may be broken fellowship that we have to restore, but we're never going to be separated from God. So whereas chapter 16, there was a specific time, specifically in the text concerning the Day of Atonement, chapter 17 is more concerned with the place. So you have, in the beginning of Genesis, Cain and Abel, they brought their sacrifices and offerings, I guess wherever they were. I'm not sure exactly. We don't have a whole lot of information there, but then Noah did the same thing. He got off the boat, offered sacrifices where he was. Abraham offered sacrifices where he was. Jacob offered sacrifices where he was. But now there's a central location. God's saying, no, you can't just offer sacrifices wherever you want or wherever you are. That was then, but this is now. There's actually a central location where you're going to worship me, where my presence is going to dwell with you as the people of Israel, and you need to come and bring your sacrifices there. Because if anybody sees you sacrificing just at your home or in your own field, well, they're going to know, well, they're not sacrificing to Yahweh. They're not sacrificing to the Lord, because he commanded that it only be done in one place, but they're doing it in someplace else. So at that point, even if they would say they're sacrificing to the Lord, they've already made up someone or something else in their mind, because they're not obeying him and bringing the sacrifices to him. And so in chapter 17, just for the sake of time, I won't read it, but it talks about that they need to bring their sacrifices to the tabernacle, to the tent of meeting, offer them there. They can't just do it wherever they want. And then it gets into specific laws against eating blood. This had to be a normal thing, or at least happened in that day, because otherwise it wouldn't be there. But it does happen in various parts of the world today. Different cultures eat blood, and I've heard of blood pudding, and there's a place in Siberia that Caitlin and I knew a missionary who the people drank reindeer blood, because that was one of the only like really good sources of nutrients that they would get, just because of how cold it was. There wasn't a lot there. In that example, I'm not sure what to do with that, but I go back to God's word. At least here it says, don't eat blood, you're to be different. The blood is a picture of the life. That's the life of a creature. God was setting apart the people, but then also it had a specific purpose. It was supposed to be sprinkled on various things. It was supposed to be used in the ritual of sacrifice. And it's repeated in the New Testament. Again, I don't have all the knowledge and understanding on it. I wish I did. But it is repeated in the New Testament. It's something that's foreign to us normally in the United States. But so we tend to not really think about it as much. But it is in God's word that says, don't drink blood, don't eat or consume the blood of the animal. So God gave specific laws to the priests regarding sacrifices, and then God, in chapter 17, God gave specific laws to the people regarding sacrifices. So Blood, again, going back to, if you've seen movies today, movies and shows are becoming more graphic. I was talking to Bill earlier, actually, about A Quiet Place, and there's the basic premise of the movie. There's aliens, they are taking control of the earth, and a lot of people have died. Anyway, at the end of the movie, one of the aliens, they kill an alien, and it falls on the ground, and you see a pool of blood come out of it. And what do you know from the blood? Well, you see all of that blood, and obviously it's lifeless now. It's dead, because you've seen all the blood. Whereas in other movies, they'll shoot the monster or something. You don't see any blood, it gets back up. There's still life in it. And I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but whenever in the movies you see all the puddle of blood, you know that the monster is dead. So going back to cleanness, uncleanness, because the chapter 17 ends that way. It says, and every person who eats what dies of itself, or what is torn by beasts, whether he is native or sojourner, shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Then he shall be clean. But if he does not wash them or bathe his flesh, he shall bear his iniquity. So why is this clean thing so important? The reason is because we cannot enter into God's presence unless we are clean. We have to be clean in order to enter into his presence. Just like an astronaut has to wear a spacesuit in order to be in space, we have to be clean. Aaron had to bathe himself, do all this stuff in order to enter into God's presence and not die. The problem, however, is that we can't clean ourselves. We can't clean ourselves up. We're just going to get dirty again. Aaron, like I said earlier, they would offer the sacrifices, but then they'd have to do it the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. The Day of Atonement was a yearly thing, offering sacrifices for the whole nation, for all the people. They would just get dirty over and over and over again. They'd get lost in sin. We take showers because we get dirty. We take showers again, we get dirty. We take showers again, we get dirty. The point is that this happens over and over again. And while physical cleanness isn't reflective of our relationship with God, it's often, like I said, in passages like this, it's often a picture of our relationship with God, and that we have to be clean, and God's given us that desire to want to be clean. So we can't clean ourselves. Ultimately, they realize this, and that's why there's a need for a greater sacrifice. You see, the two goats. I only have one now, but the two goats, there had to be two of them, and then there had to be all these other sacrifices. But Jesus accomplished all of those things. He accomplished what this goat did and what that goat did, and what all the sacrifices did. You see, this is one of the things that you see in ancient Greek mythology and all of the other ancient religions, and religions today too, is that Greek specifically, there were a bunch of gods on top of Mount Olympus, and there was a god for the sun, and a god for war, and a god for love, and a god for wisdom, and a god for this and that. And it's the same with like Hinduism, and they have gods for everything. Because we can't reconcile one God doing everything. But that's because all other gods are weak gods. Our God is strong. He can do everything. He did everything. He accomplished what this goat did, and he accomplished what that goat did. He paid the price, died in our place, and he took away our sins. Forever and ever. We'll never see them again. Everything before Christ in my life, whenever I place my faith in Christ, everything before that event, I'll never be held accountable for that, because that's already condemned in Christ. 16 years of Cameron Neace is condemned. I'll never be held accountable for that, because it's already gone. Now, my life from moment of salvation, the rest of my life here, I am accountable. I'm walking with the Lord. I'm not going to lose my relationship with the Lord. I'm a son. If you believe in Christ, you are a son or a daughter. So we can't lose our relationship. We are accountable for words we say, for things we do, for things we think, but God's walking with us. We're not holding on to him, he's holding on to us. And so that's just what I want you to think about this week, what I want us all to think about. We can't clean ourselves up. Jesus, though, did clean us up, and he is cleaning us up, and he's making us more and more into his image. So that said, let's pray.